I'm Cristina Berg, and I'm a Filipina by nature, and raised and born in the Philippines, and I'm the missionary of the Philippines. Always been connected with New Day Christian Center Church from the beginning, and I'm here to tell you about the missions in the Philippines, which I love to say, I love to tell, I love to share. There's a lot of things that the world has to know what is going on in the Philippines. So I think this is my goal today, is to share what the Lord has inspired in my heart, and letting you know how you can participate, how you can be part of the work that God has established in the missions in the Philippines, through me and the people that work with me over there. As far as I remember, I was only 18 years old when I first met 5 missionaries that came over there in 1994. And it was very exciting, to see these foreign missionaries came to the Philippines. And my father is a pastor, and I have been raised, as a pastor's kid since I was 5 years old. I had 4 brothers, so we kind of like, really grow up in the church, in the ministry. But I really never had any picture what is a mission work is until these missionaries came to the Philippines. And so that time, I felt the Lord was leading something, a new call, in my life, through the work of my father. But, to take it, a little forward, the work as a missionary had established in my life when I was probably a year after. I met Farland Borg. He's the missionary that also came with the missions team that time. And through him, we have connected to Pastor Herman and Deborah Holland of New Day Christian Center Church. Well, God called me to work with him as a missionary as well to my own country. And it's just like, the mission call, to see people's lives change, to bring them to the Lord, to tell them who Jesus is, and not just enough by knowing, but, to disciple them, to raise them up to be a Christian. And, it's amazing to be part of that transformation, in their lives. And especially because it's my own people, to see that. Mm-hmm. So what happened, 3 years after that, I was 19 years old when I began to really commit myself, as a missionary. 3 years after that, well, guess what? I married a missionary. Yeah. So that kind of like doubled the impact, you know what I mean? 2 become 1 is really more powerful than 1. So God calls us to really build more the missions in the Philippines, and it also gives me an access to come to USA, and that's when I really get to know more of the missionaries that come to the Philippines. Well, since then, God has spoken to us to really go back, to the Philippines, and with certain things that we need to establish, register a name for the SEC in the Philippines. And so we have come out with a Fellowship of the Voice of Zion Incorporated. So since then, we do a lot of crusades. My husband had this 50 diameter tent, like how these big time crusaders like, Billy Graham and other people, that they had this big tent, but we just had the small one. He shipped it to the Philippines, and so, it's like a big umbrella. And when we put it up, to use it for crusade, people were just like, what's going on? They say there must be a carnival going on, because they never, when you see a tent like that, it has to be a carnival or a circus. So, but it's a tool or equipment that God has given unto us to really attract people, not to a circus, but for their salvation that night. We have a concert team prepared to do, that night, the praise and worship, dance and everything, and it just draws people. It fills up the tent. My husband used to say, how big is the tent? Well, if it's an American, it probably fit like 200 to 250 people. But since they're Filipinos, it can fit like 500 to 600 people. So that's how tiny Filipinos are.